want someone sane, and especially someone who's been at the UN for 6 years, be optimistic. Where can you draw that optimism from? With the dark clouds on the horizon, with Israel for the very first time probably facing existential dangers, with the Hamas in the south shelling us with rockets, and with the Hezbollah in the north with a capability of almost 40,000 rockets to cover practically every inch of Israel, with a radical, fundamentalist, extreme regime in Iran denying the Holocaust while preparing the next one and threatening to wipe Israel off the face of the map, with a web of terror which stretches from Cairo to Calcutta, from Amman to Singapore, more and more covering the rest of the world with its horrible web of terrorism and violence, which we've witnessed only a few days ago in Mumbai. And with an economic crisis and tsunami none of us have ever witnessed before. How can anyone in his right mind at this time be optimistic? And I am. And I'll try and share that optimism with you and hopefully leave you with it when you leave here tonight. I believe that it is precisely because of the dangers, because of the terror, because of those very dark clouds on the horizon, that we do for the first time, maybe for the very first time, have a chance to resolve our conflict in the very tough neighborhood we live in and create a new future for our children and grandchildren. And the reason is that we are not the only ones who are witnessing those horrors and are worried about those dangers. For a very long time, I felt that we were living in a very different era. I spoke about a year ago at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, and Professor Samuel Huntington, who wrote that famous book, A Clash of Civilizations, was in the front row, and I said to him, Professor, you know, when you first wrote that book 13 years ago, I agreed with every word in it. Today, I think you're wrong. And he said, why? And I said, because today I believe that we are no longer in a clash of civilizations. We are indeed in a clash of civilization in the singular. Because when you look around you, you realize that most of the horrors, most of the bloodshed, most of the terror, most of the violence is within Islam. Not only is the vast majority of terrorists Muslim, but a huge majority of the victims are Muslim. Each and every day, as we just saw the other day, and as we see every day in Iraq, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Morocco, in Algeria, in Sharm el-Sheikh, and in Amman, Muslims are killing Muslims. And what to me seemed the most frightening thing was the eerie silence of the Muslim world. The fact that we did not see one Muslim leader, religious, secular, academic, political, stand up and say, enough is enough, what are we doing? We're killing each other. It seemed to me as if we were living in a world where when Christians kill Muslims, it's a crusade. When Jews kill Muslims, it's a massacre. And when Muslims kill Muslims, it's the Weather Channel. Nobody cares. Now, all of a sudden, they are starting to care. And I think the first time they started caring was during the war in Lebanon in 2006, when they realized that what they were witnessing was not a war between Israel and a terror organization called Hezbollah, but rather the very first confrontation in history between a secular democratic society and a fundamentalist, autocratic, extreme Islamic regime in Tehran. They watched and they realized that what they were watching was only the preview. As you say in this town, soon to be seen in a theater near you. And they got frightened. And they realized that the real danger to them did not come from Jerusalem. The real danger was in Tehran. They, more than anybody else, the so-called moderate Arab and Muslim world, realized where the real danger was. And I believe that was a rude awakening and a wake-up call to the Arab world. And I believe that is what eventually made them come to Annapolis over a year ago. And I was at Annapolis, and I watched them. And I saw them come there in very large numbers, defying Iran and forming what we hoped would be a coalition of the moderates against the extremists. But they still did not do the right thing. And terror has spread, and violence has spread, and their fear of Iran has increased. And then the King of Saudi Arabia, only a few weeks ago, convened the interfaith meeting at the United Nations again. Not out of love for Israel, but out of fear. Fear is what brought them to Annapolis, and fear is what brought them to the United Nations 3 weeks ago. Fear of fundamentalism, fear of terror, fear of Shia extremism, fear for their own regimes. And I believe that it is that fear and their realization that they have a choice. They have a choice today, the Arab world. Do they want to be Damascus and Tehran, or do they want to be Dubai and Abu Dhabi? And I believe the realization of what they really want to be and what they have to do in order to get there has sunk in. Because they know that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not the main problem and not the core problem. They also know that if they solve it, it will not go away. But they believe that if they will solve it, they will be able to put their streets to rest, calm their own people, and align themselves against the real danger, which is indeed Iran. And because of that, I hope and I believe that they are willing today to be much more realistic, much more pragmatic about solving our problem in order to align themselves against the real danger. I cannot begin to tell you how many Arab leaders, sheikhs and sultans and emirs and foreign ministers and prime ministers and presidents and ambassadors came to me during those first days of the war in Lebanon and said to me, come on, go girl, finish the job, don't stop. And when I sat at the Security Council a yard away from the foreign minister of Lebanon and said to him, you know, deep down in your heart that if you could, you'd be sitting right here next to me, saying exactly what I'm saying, because you know that if we win, Lebanon will be the main winner. And he bowed his head. I knew he agreed with me. I know. Yes, we do live in a very dangerous world. We live in a very crazy world. Do you know, by the way, how one knows you live in a crazy world? You know you live in a crazy world when the world's greatest rapper is white. The world's greatest golfer is black. The world's greatest soldiers are Jewish. Germany does not want to go to war. And the French accuse the Americans of being arrogant. That's how you know. As a long-time tenant, nowhere is the world crazier than on that building on First Avenue, where I had the privilege and the honor of representing Israel. But even there, the realization of the very dangerous world we live in and the dramatically changing world we live in has sunk in. So I believe that today, with a new administration in Washington, with a soon-to-be new administration in Israel, with a totally new Europe, with Berlusconi in Italy and Sarkozy in France and Angela Merkel in Berlin and Gordon Brown in London, the only missing link to all those parties who want to do the right thing is a moderate Arab and Muslim world which will finally get up and do the right thing, legitimize and support a Palestinian leader who will go for it. And I believe they will again, not out of love, but out of fear. And I believe that that is why we can and should look to 2009, in spite of all those dark clouds on the horizon, with a drop of optimism, because I believe that with all that goodwill, and because of the economic crisis, we can actually make it happen. But what I do want to tell you from this podium tonight, and promise you, is that whatever happens, Israel will prevail. And it will prevail because a country and a people and a society that has given the world the Hebrew University and the Weizmann Institute and the Israel Philharmonic and stand with us can do no less. Thank you very much.